Have you heard the story about the business owner who got a call from their banker last week asking if they would like to have their line of credit increased and some of their personal assets removed as security? Me neither. Must have been some kind of a fable. I'm Cliff Allen, president of Allen Business Enterprises, and I work with small to medium-sized companies to help build the value of the enterprise. Today I've been asked to talk to you a little bit about liquidity and what business owners can do to control their destiny better than they have in the past. Have you talked to your banker in the last couple of weeks or the last year or 2 years about increasing or changing your line of credit, adjusting the security for that line, getting a new term loan, modifying the terms of your old loan? Well, if you have, you know that the rules have all changed. They've changed for the banker, they've changed for the business owner. I'd like to talk about a couple of examples of real-life business cases and the banker's view of those businesses. So the first business that I'd like to talk about briefly is a company that was in property development. They had great plans for developing some agricultural land. The development lagged, of course, as the recession took hold. They couldn't get permits. Financing was iffy, and the bank took their land as security. Well, you know what happened to real estate, and the company not only folded, but the bank was left holding agricultural land that had to go through the sheriff's sale. The company went out of business, the bank was left holding the bag. The second company I'd like to talk about is a luxury consumer products business, manufacturer, distributor. When the recession really took hold, their products sales dropped like a rock. The bank had overextended credit to them on faith, and the security that the owner put up was their personal home and the equipment used in manufacturing. So that essentially had no value. At the end, the company went out of business, the bank was held holding the bag. So what went wrong with those business relationships? A couple of things. There were some poor operating practices on behalf of the bank, but also they took as security some illiquid assets that either had no value or dropped precipitously in value during the recession. The banks are under a microscope by federal and state examiners. If you watch the local news, you'll see that banks' profitability has improved over the past year, but there are a number of troubled banks still struggling to build capital. Liquidity will be an issue for the next decade. That's not something I made up, that's what the bankers are being told, and that's what they're looking for inside your company to determine how creditworthy you are. Let's agree on a definition for liquidity. It's the measure of the extent to which a company can quickly lay hands on cash to pay off short and near-term obligations. So keep that in mind. When the banker talks to you, they're going to want to know about your liquidity. You can find opportunities for liquidity improvement in literally every area of your business. For simplicity today, we'll talk about 4 buckets. Inside the company, how you get things done. Outside the company, external forces. The people and how they affect liquidity. And the financials. In the first case, we'll talk about inside the business. Think about the processes and systems by which your company operates. How do we get things done? How repeatable are those processes and systems? When a new person comes on board, how do they learn your processes and systems? Are they documented? Think about the cycle times in turning an order into a collection. So it's not just taking the order, it's not just entering the order into your process for manufacturing and delivery. It's how you invoice, how you collect, how you deposit, how you build your liquidity. Also, product development can be a great opportunity. How do you choose those opportunities you will pursue, and how do you eliminate those you will not? Has a huge impact on liquidity. If you don't have a go, no-go decision at some point in product development, then you'll probably spend too much money before you pull the plug. The second bucket is outside of the company. the markets you play in, opportunities inside those markets, opportunities to diversify. The customer base within those markets is critical to your liquidity. How diversified is the customer base? Do they have complementary business cycles? The channels through which you get your products or services to the market. If it's a product, does your distribution channel carry the inventory and relieve you of some of the risk and the investment? The partners with whom you deal with in terms of suppliers, service providers, raw materials, and so forth, all have an impact on your liquidity. Those construction of those agreements and relationships and how well those partners adhere to your agreements determine your liquidity ultimately. The third bucket is categorized as people. It's not only the people you have in the particular seats on the bus, but it's the capabilities of those people and how well they execute the plan. Productivity is a common measure of people capabilities and how well they can perform. So make sure that you're looking at not only your leadership team, but also the bench and how well they execute and understand the impacts they have on liquidity. The fourth bucket is the financials. Of course, this is the ultimate report card on how well the business is generating liquidity. The P&L is one of the key elements of reporting. You need to make sure that we're looking at gross margins as well as net income. Cash flow is critical, of course, but also think about the P&L by product line or distribution channel or customer type or all three. What's sustaining the business? What's dragging the business down? Why are you continuing in business lines, product lines, or service areas that aren't performing up to par? The second part of the financials, of course, is the balance sheet. And an accountant would go directly to the balance sheet to determine liquidity in their world. Do you have excess assets? Is inventory out of balance? Do you have fixed assets that you haven't used and have no future using? Can you liquidate those and generate additional cash? How are the accounts receivable? Are they current? They also need to be split by type of customer, distribution channel, product line, etc. And ultimately, for the financials, pick your handful of key performance indicators and how you want to measure liquidity in each of these areas. I know we've touched on a lot of subjects in a very short amount of time, but in summary, I'd like you to remember a couple of points. First of all, this is not a short-term issue. It's not a cause du jour. The bankers have been told this is going to be a 10-year issue for them in terms of providing commercial credits. So how do you respond to that? I think it needs to be part of your 10-year plan. Make it a cornerstone, something consistent every year you do your annual planning. Think about the buckets that we identified, inside, outside, people, and your financials, and determine where the opportunities lie, evaluate those opportunities, set objectives. You don't have to get there all in the first 6 months or even 12 months, but set a long-term goal of where you'd like to be and then measure it. Keep your eye on those goals. Don't let your organization or you forget about it. So good luck on your journey to improve liquidity and improve value in your business. If you need help on any of these areas, please contact Stephanie at Owl Bookkeeping and CFO Services or Cliff Allen at Allen Business Enterprises. Thanks for your attention. Hope to talk to you soon.